Jy is ingeskakel en luister nou na die program Straight Talk met die United Independent Movement wat aangebied word deur professor Aubrey Burger en die United Independent Movement se president Jacques Tallier saam met ons anker Chris Ironis vanaf Port Elizabeth. Saam met verskeie gaste wat van tyd tot tyd deel gewees hier op die program. Ja, hier op Joy Radio. Elke donderdag vanaf 18:30 tot 20:00 uur. En Plain Afrikaans, 6:30 tot en met 8 op 'n donderdag aand. Net hierso, waar daar niks terughou gaan word nie. En waar daar net regheid en opreg gepraat gaan word oor die daaglikse gebeure in Suid-Afrika, dat ieder Afrikaansburger hierdie land. Yeah, hello, it's that time of the week again. It is Straight Talk with UIM. Welkom almal. Ja, saam met my, Prof. Aubrey, en natuurlijk, julle het gehoor op die inleiding, dit is amptelik die wat het nog nie gehoor het nie, met ons president, wat ons mede-aanbieder is, Jacques Tallier, en vanaand ons anker, soos gewoonlik, is Chris Ironis daar van Port Elizabeth, en dan het ons 'n spesiale gas ook vanaand op, en sy naam is Marlin, en dit is nou nie daai Marlin wat julle ken van die movies daar so met die King Arthur swart nie, hoor. Hierdie ene is 'n ander ene. Daai swart, kom nie naby hom nie. Jacques, goeienaand.
Goeienaand Prof, goeienaand Marlin, goeienaand Chris. Lekker om jy saam met ons te wees.
Ja, Chris, good evening and welcome back tonight again.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you for the privilege of being here. Welcome all. Good evening, Praise. Good evening, Marlin. Good evening, listeners.
En dan natuurlijk ons gas vanaand, Marlin Truter. Soos ek gesê het, dit is nie die Marlin met die towerstaafie nie. Hierdie een se staafie wat hy mee toer hy wonderwerker vir die UIM voor. Marlin, goeienaand, welkom hierso by ons. Daar is die introduksies, geliewe luisteraars, kom ons val in die deur, ons gaan nie op die grond val nie, maar ons gaan in die deur val. Daar het hierdie laaste week, het daar nou nogal heel wat interessante goed gebeur op die nuusgebeure. En ek gaan vir Jacques vra dat hy bietjie met ons gesels, en ons gaan begin, Jacques, ek sien daar is 'n nuwe paneel aangewys, om die nuwe nasionale direkteur van openbare vervolging aan te wys. En daar is nou al klaar reeds politieke partye, onder andere die DA, wat nou klaar klomp lawaai opskop en te kere gaan hulle sê, hoe kan jy 'n paneel aanwys as daai mense nie eers 'n aanklaer was of weet wat die aanklaer te spel of zoiets nie, om iemand aan daai pos aan te sit. Nou jy is in die regte, Jacques, so jy is die regte mens seker om vir ons 'n bietjie te vertel daarvan.
Nou Prof, weer eens, jy weet, elke week dan sê ons, hoe sê dit kan ons meer verbaas nie. Ons word nie verbaas oor al die goed wat ons sien gebeur. Maar nie, ons was elke keer teleurgesteld, maar dit verbaas ons nie meer nie. Maar my woorde was skaars koud geweest, en toe ja, gebeur daar nou maar weer. Ouder gewoond, allerhande interessante goed hierdie week. Onder andere nou die paneel wat aangestel is om nou die nuwe nasionale direkteur van openbare vervolgings aan te wys. En nou sit ons met 'n paneel hierso wat nou verantwoordelik is vir die kering van die nasionale direkteur van openbare vervolgings. En dit is en die mense op die paneel het geen ervaring in strafregpraktyk of enigiets. En ek bedoel, dit is 'n baie belangrike aanstelling hierdie. Dit is nie soos hulle in Engels sal sê 'n Mickey Mouse aanstelling nie. Dit is 'n baie belangrike pos. Maar soos wat ons nou al gesien het met baie ander aanstellings in hierdie land wat nou al plaasgevind het, en ons sal nou by 'n ander enetjie, ons sal nou raak in 'n ander voorbeeld wat ek gaan noem net nou. Is dit nou maar weer die geval van, jy weet, hulle sit met 'n klop mense by mekaar daar en hierdie mense is heeltemal te veel behep met menseregte en staatsbestuur en allerlei ander vaardighede, behalwe die vaardighede wat nodig is om hierdie tipe belangrike besluit te maak. So, weer eens, dit is geen verrassing dat hulle so iets gedoen het nie, dat dit nou gebeur het nie, maar dit bly 'n groot teleurstelling, want dit is nou maar as gevolg van goed soos hierdie, dat ons sit met wat ons sit in hierdie land, dat ons staatsinstitusies het wat nie werk nie, dat plekke so weet wat goed soos Eskom, as ek dit nou op 'n mooi manier kan sê vanaand op Joy Radio, en ek sê jammer vir al die luisteraars, sy gat gesien het, is as gevolg van die feit dat mense aangestel word wat nie beskik oor die vermoëns en die, hoe sê hulle in Engels, expertise om die regte besluite te maak, om die instansies in stand te hou, of om die regte mense aan te stel om nie net beheer te vat oor hierdie staatsinstansies nie, of om die regte mense aan te stel wat belangrike besluite in hierdie land maak, weet wat ons lewens afhet. So ja, dit is hoe sê hulle, dit is 'n justified complaint in Engels. En ja, dit is skokkend, maar ek bedoel, ons het nou, onlangs het ons gepraat oor die Judicial Service Commission. Weet, dit is 'n kommissie of 'n komitee wat verantwoordelik is vir die aanstelling van regters in hierdie land en om klagtes teen regters te ondersoek. En lo and behold, soos die Engelsman sê,
This meeting is being recorded.
Ons vriend Julius Malema. So Prof, jy verstaan, dit is mens kom op 'n punt wat 'n mens hierdie tipe van goed nie meer ernstig wil vat. Jy weet, jy lees dit in die koerant, dan lag jy. En jy steur nie regtig daaraan nie, want dit is 'n sirkus. Dis 'n groot sirkus en dit is besig om ons geloof en ons vertroue in hierdie staatsinstansies groot skade te ly. En die laaste staatsinstansie of arm van die regering, of soos hulle in Engels sê, sphere of government, wat ons vertroue en geloof moet in verloor, is ons regstelsel. En dit is presies wat hierdie tipe van goed doen, is dat breek ons vertroue in die regstelsel, en dan sit jy nog nou met hierdie Madlanga kommissie wat ook aan die gang is. Dit maak dat, weet, mense ongelukkig, verloor absolute vertroue in die polisie, verloor vertroue in ons nasionale vervolgingsgesag. En ja, dit is skandelik, maar dit is ongelukkige realiteit, en dit is iets wat ons baie vinnig gaan moet regstel, want dit gaan uitloop op gevolge wat ons definitief nie voorbereid is nie, en as dit ineenstort, dan dink ek is die laaste bastion in hierdie land wat dinge nog so half van mekaar hou, ook heeltemal in sy kanon.
Dit is waar, jy praat van die sirkus, Jacques, en dan, ja, dat soos ek sê, die sogenaamde hoofnarre van die sirkus, is nie een in die land nie. Albei is buite stedig. Die een is daar in Ierland en tussen Ierland en België. Die ander ene is daar in Senegal. En toe kry ons nou 'n ander nuwe ene en ek sien nou toe sy nou die papiertjies onderteken, toe sy nou ingesweer word met daai grenslag op haar gesig. Nou ja, ons weet wat het sy in onderwys gedoen. Ons weet wat sy kwytraak en wat sy meedoenig is met die weermag. Maar nou sy ons land se waarnemende president, Angie Motshekga.
Ja, Prof, dit is nou presies wat ek nou oor gepraat het ook nou met hierdie paneel wat aangewys is nou om hierdie direkteur van openbare vervolging aan te wys. Ons land of ons regering of die regerende party het 'n vermoë om mense aan te stel en komitees op die been te bring wat kardinale besluite moet maak in hierdie land, en hulle het die vermoë om die nutteloosste mense onder die son te kies om hierdie tipe van besluite te maak, en ons woorde is skaars koud. Toe bring jy nou vir mevrou Motshekga ook nou op. Ja, kyk, ja, as jy nou wil praat van 'n misplasing, voormalige minister van onderwys, reguit minister van verdediging toe. Ek dink dis ongehoord. Ek weet nie in wat 'n ander land, ek sal graag 'n voorbeeld wil gaan opsoek waar hierdie tipe van goed gebeur. En ek dink daar is baie lande waarin sulke tipe goed gebeur, maar dis die lande waarmee ons onsself graag wil vergelyk. Nietemin, sy is nou nog net 'n kort rukkie wat sy dien as minister van verdediging en kyk nou al klaar wat sy helse reputasie en track record het sy vir haarself opgebou as minister van verdediging. Onder andere daai fiasco wat plaasgevind het daar in die Kongo en natuurlik ook ons generaal wat oorgegaan het Iran toe en sy openbare steun aan hulle gaan verleen het en dat sy het hom natuurlik verdedig. So ja, en soos jy sê, tereg sê, nou ons waarnemende president. So ja, weer eens, ek weet nie hoe anders om dit te vergelyk as met 'n sirkus nie. Maar ja, ek dink die mense, dit is mense wil ook nie elke week op hierdie, op Joy Radio kom en praat oor negatiewe dinge en slegte dinge wat in hierdie land aangaan nie, maar hulle maak dit vir jou so moeilik om oor goeie dinge te praat. En daar is so baie goeie dinge om oor te praat, maar dit is belangrik dat ons hierdie tipe van goed uitwys. En ek hoop maar net dit val nie op dowe ore nie en ek hoop dit bereik die regte kanale en daar's baie mense daar buite wat ek dink wat ons graag sal wil gryp en bietjie rondskit en vir hulle sê maak op julle oë en julle ore.
Ja, so bietjie so in die skouers ruk.
Ja, so dit is jammer, jy weet, mense moet regtig belangstel in hierdie tipe van dinge en in die politiek en jy moet die moeite doen om te gaan oplees en om die nuus te kyk en jou government gazette, jou staatskoerant te lees op 'n Vrydag, sodat jy weet wat aangaan in hierdie land en sodat jy verstaan wat aangaan en wat se implikasies sekere besluite het vir ons mense. Jy weet, almal van ons, die meerderheid van ons mense in hierdie land, ons staan op in die oggend, ons gaan werk toe, ons kom terug, ons maak ons het ons stokperdjies, ons braai ons vleis oor die naweke en ons kyk rugby of wat se sport ook al. Ons gaan net salig onbewus van wat aangaan om ons gaan ons aan met ons lewens. En dan verstaan ons nie hoekom val goed in mekaar, hoekom stort dit goed in duie nie. Hoekom gebeur wat gebeur, ek weet dit het ons gebeur nie. En dit is ongelukkig, daar's 'n hele wêreld daar buite, 'n politieke wêreld wat mense bitter vinnig moet begin belangstel en ek weet dit is altyd, hulle het altyd gesê die laaste dinge wat iemand by 'n braai oor wil praat is godsdienst en politiek. Maar godsdienst en politiek is seker die twee belangrikste goed in ons lewens wat seker die grootste rol speel in ons lewens en dis juist die twee goed wat ons juist oor moet praat om 'n braai, maar niemand wil nie. En daai mindset of daai, as ek kan sê attitude, verskoon my Engels, moet verander. Ons moet begin belangstel in wat om ons aangaan. Ons moet begin belangstel in politiek. Ons moet begin lees, luister, kyk na die nuus, lees die staatskoerant, doen moeite en gaan lees op oor wette, konstitusionele wette in hierdie land. Gaan maak seker jy ken jou konstitusie, maak seker jy ken jou menseregte, maak seker jy ken jou munisipale bywette. Hierdie goedes is baie belangrik. Andersins, jy weet, dis empowering om hierdie kennis te hê en om hierdie tipe van goed te weet, want dan kan jy deelneem aan die besluitnemingsproses oor jou lewe en oor die lewe van jou familie en jou nageslag. Andersins is ons net toeskouers. Ons is toeskouers wat daar nie in die gehoor sit en kyk na hierdie sirkus en hoe hierdie sirkus homself afspeel. En as ons nie begin betrokke raak en onsself begin inlig en touwys maak, oor hierdie tipe van goed nie, dan gaan ons vir die res van ons lewens, ons gaan hierdie paadjie afry, wat ons nou in die laaste 30 jaar afry, met dieselfde eindbestemming in sig, en dit gaan nooit verander nie. So ons moet daadwerklik begin aksie neem, en mense moet nie dink aksie is noodwendig altyd fisiese aksie. Aksie kan ook beteken dat jy jouself net begin educate, as ek dit so kan stel, en bietjie begin belangstel in politiek, sodat jy weet wat hierdie tipe van goed beteken en wat se implikasies hierdie tipe van goed het in jou lewe, want dan gaan jy dalk wakker skrik, dalk besef mense dan hoe ernstig hierdie is, en as hulle die erns daarvan besef, sal hulle begin besef hoe belangrik dit is om te stem, en hoe belangrik dit is om betrokke te raak by hulle gemeenskappe en hulle gemeenskapsforums en al hierdie klas van dinge. Want andersins, soos ek sê, mense, ons lewe in ons comfort zones, ons doen ons alledaagse dinge, terwyl alles om ons in duie stort, en dit is daai parra, daai storie van die parra in die water, wat jy op die pot op die stoofplaat sit, en jy begin die water stadig kook.
Ja, nie
Daai
vinnig.
water is al klaar aan die kook, en ons sit nog steeds, die mense sit nog steeds al binne in die pot.
Ja, ons
Die parra
raak,
is nog steeds in die pot.
die mense raak nou so, die water raak nou so lekker warm, hulle raak nou gemaklik in hom. Hy maak hulle nou net lekker gemaklik warm. Terwyl hy net verder en verder hittiger geword. Nou Jacques, die Mandela-kommissie hervat nou weer maandag. Hy het mos nou so 'n bietjie verdaag nadat daai geagte generaal mos nou siek geword het. Maar toe vat die ad hoc komitee nou oor en hulle begin met hulle storie. En daar was ook nou 'n bietjie drama daar gewees, want eerst het Jelly tot gekom en toe hulle generaal Mkhwanazi wou insweer, toe het hy nou besware en sê, wat hierdie kommissie is nie tweede rangse kommissie nie, ons is nie onder die dit en dat en dit, al die stories van hom nie. En ek weet jy volg hierdie ding met 'n valkoog, beide kante toe. Is daar enigiets niets wat jy graag met ons wil deel daaromtrent hierdie week?
I'd like to answer this in English. I would like to just give you my thoughts on what I've seen in the last 2 days. I mean, obviously there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot of stuff, obviously, that have come out in this commission of inquiry so far, but and action still needs to be taken on a lot of these things that have come out. There has been very few conclusions so far. It's all testimony at this point. I want to say, however, that I want to make a comment on the way that Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi has been answering these questions. Now, they say it's easy to spot a liar, or it's difficult. No, it's easy to spot a liar, actually. And I have to be honest with you, if you look at this guy's body language and you listen to the way he answers the questions, he seems like a very, very confident guy. You can see when he gets asked questions, he doesn't have to go and look for answers, or doesn't think about the answers. You can see he recalls memory. That's the impression that I'm getting from him. He answers these questions very confidently. He speaks fluently. He doesn't stutter. He doesn't contradict himself. So far, in my opinion, he's turning out to be a very good witness. He's made a couple of predictions. I see that one of those predictions have already come true or happened, and I see that there was a raid on General Sibiya's house last night, and this is something that Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi predicted. He said that this was going to happen, and it happened. Obviously there's been no arrests made, and I mean he also there were statements made today as well that General Sibiya made with his lawyers. But what so far I made the comment earlier when we spoke, Prof. I said that there's been more action taken during this inquiry, which has only been ongoing now for a couple of weeks, than in the whole Zondo Commission and everything that happened in the Zondo Commission combined. There's been more action taken already. There's been more revelations, if I can put it, not revelations, but action taken. So I think this is a step in the right direction. I hope they persist with this. I hope that that arrests will be made if warranted, and I hope that the truth will come out. And as far as Julius Malema's comments are concerned, I don't think anybody really pays attention to him anymore. I mean, I said previously that there's going to come a point in time where we are not going to mention his name anymore, and I'm looking forward to that day, because he has become irrelevant. He tries to stay relevant by making a noise, and that noise is becoming white noise. So don't really care much for what Julius has to say, but as far as the commission is concerned, so far so good. I think lot of things are being revealed, and it seems as if steps are being taken to address these issues. So, and General Mkhwanazi seems to be a competent witness, in my opinion, so far.
Absoluut, absoluut. Ja nee, ek sien hulle het vanoggend, dis so net na 3 toe hulle in volle force daar by sy huis, daar was sy ma en die kinders hy was blykbaar nie daar nie. Toe het hulle daar toe geslaan en weet 'n search and seizure bevel. En ek sien dat hulle het ook toe sommer terselfde tyd vir hom sy dokumente bedien vir sy dissiplinêre verhoor. Dit is nou Sibia. Want hy word nou blykbaar beskuldig en hy, die klagte teen hom vir sy dissiplinêres van onbehoorlike gedrag oor daardie ombinding van die taakspanne na 121 dossiere. So dit sal interessant wees om te sien hoe dit gaan uitspeel daai ene. Maar Jacques, dan die laaste enetjie voordat ons na ons hoofstorie toe gaan vanaand. Dit is voordat ons president nou pad gevat het Ierland toe en België toe en daai plekke toe. Toe het hy nou 'n nuwe 10-punt noodplan aangekondig wat hy sê dat wat nou hierdie land gaan red en alles gaan reg kry en alles in dit volgens my beskeie opinie vir die laaste 30 jaar kon daar, ek weet hoeveel planne daar al was nie, maar was meer as 10-punt planne gewees, niks het gewerk nog nie. Nou, hoekom sal dit nou skielik werk?
Ja, Prof, jy het eintlik die woord uit my mond uitgevat, nou, ek wou nou net vir jou gesê 10-punt plan, is daar nie al 'n 10-punt plan wat nou al die laaste 10 jaar bestaan nie, of die laaste 30 jaar bestaan nie, so ek weet nie, hulle hou daarvan om ons besig te hou met nonsens, en ons val daarvoor, dit is smokescreens en mirrors, wat's mirrors, dit is smokescreens. Ek luister elke jaar, en ek my doodlag as ons elke jaar die budget speech, as hulle daai State of the Nation en daai groot budget speeches doen, dan dink ek met myself, jene, selfe beloftes, selfe beloftes, different time, different place, my selfe beloftetjies.
Ja, word net anders gestel.
Ja, en dan smile almal weer, en almal is weer gelukkig, en almal gaan huis toe, maar daar gebeur absoluut niks. Hulle is baie goed met speeches, maak speeches wat natuurlik hulle nie self skryf nie, word vir hulle geskryf, maar jy kan mos maar partykeer sien ook eens van hierdie mense as hulle speeches, weet, as hulle toesprake doen, kan jy sien hoe beweeg die oor, sien hoe lees hulle goedjies af, met teleprompter af, maar jy kan sien daarso is nie regtig, dit lyk asof hulle nie regtig dink wat hulle sê.
Die ligte is almal, niemand is by die huis nie.
Ja, dit is net, jy kry net so half die idee, dit is definitief iets wat uit die hart uitkom nie, en dit is nou maar due process, as ek het so kan stel. Nee, 10-punt planne, ek weet nie, ek begin met 'n 2-punt plan. Kom ons begin met 'n 2-punt plan, en ons kyk of ons dit kan uitsort, of dit kan regkry. Vergeet van 10-punt, 20-punt, 30-punt planne, 2-punt plan. Doen iets omtrent die geweld en misdaad in hierdie land, nommer 1, en doen net iets aan diensverskaffing. Dis net daai 2 goed. Moenie worry oor werkskepping nie, al hierdie goede sal byprodukte wees van, as hierdie ander goed werk, dit is als byprodukte hierdie, goedjies wat op hulle eie in plek sal val. Maar kom ons adresseer net die geweld en misdaad in hierdie land, en kom ons konsentreer net op dienslewering. Net daai 2 goedes. Dit beteken water, krag en rioolverwydering. Net daai 3 goed. Weet jy wat, as jy nou nog 'n bietjie tyd het en jy wil nog 'n bietjie meer moeite doen, gaan maak ons paai ook reg. So kom ons maak dit 'n 3-punt plan. As jy daai 3-punt plan kan regkry, beloof ek jou Prof, sal 'n 50-punt plan ook werk, want alles sal net in plek val. Dit sal net, maar as hulle kan dit nie eens regkry nie. So ek luister met 'n halwe oor as ek hierdie goed hoor, en ek lees so met 'n halwe oog as ek dit lees. Maar ek steur my nie veel daaraan nie. Weet, ons het op 'n punt gekom nou wat ons nou moet begin besef dat actions speak louder than words. En vir 30 jaar is daar bitter min aksie en baie woorde gewees.
So, Jacques, as ek jou reg hoor hierso, as ons praat van die UIM, is daar vir die UIM nou gevra word, as jy 'n plan in plek moet sit, kyk 'n mens basies na 'n 2-punt plan, want vir my, paie en daai goed val onder dienslewering ook. En dit is dan, kom ons kry die misdaad, kom ons kry die geweld in hierdie land onder beheer, en ons kry die diensskaffing in dit in plek. Want dit gaan al reeds dan meer stabiliteit bring. En as mens 'n 3-punt wil inbring, die derde een is, wel volgens my, dis is my beskeie opinie op hierdie ene. My derde een sal wees, wat ek sal, as ek het kon gedoen het, sal wees om al hierdie belaglike wetgewings wat ekonomiese groei belemmer in hierdie land, sal ek wegvat.
Prof, dit is BEE. BEE sê ek nou vir jou het ek seker 80% aandeel in hierdie land se ekonomie wat in duie gestort. Dit is soos jy sê, daar's wetgewing, daar's diskriminerende wetgewing in hierdie land wat almal van ons benadeel. Dit is veronderstel om, daar was, ek weet nie wat hulle plan daarmee was nie, maar dit het nie gewerk. Inteendeel, die teenoorgestelde het nou gebeur. Ons is al gegrylist, ons is al tot junk status verklaar, en dit raak nie beter nie. Voor jy met jou 2-punt plan begin, Prof, dink ek daar's 'n paar grondslae wat eers gelê moet word. Nommer 1, ons moet mense aanstel wat in die eerste plek omgee vir die mense van hierdie land en vir die land self, want ek dink dit is iets wat totaal al tekort kom by ons leiers, meeste van ons leiers in hierdie land. Hulle gee nie om vir hierdie land of sy mense, hulle gee om vir hulle self. Hulle is geldgierig. Het gaan oor hulle eie agendas en wat hulle vir hulle self kan doen en vir hulle kaders. So daar moet ons begin. Stel die regte mense aan, en as jy die regte mense aanstel, sal dit lei tot die regte besluite, en daai regte besluite sal lei tot positiewe resultate. So simpel soos dit. En wanneer jy daai mense in plek het, dan kan jy begin kyk na planne. Want op die einde van die dag, is 'n plan net so goed soos die ene wat aan toevertrou word om hom deur te voer. En ons kan die beste plan in die wêreld hê, maar as jy sit met mense wat die knoppie moet druk, en jy sit met die mense wat die autoriteit het om daai tipe van besluite te maak, en hulle maak nie die regte besluite nie, of hulle agendas, of dit gaan nie oor die mense nie, en dit gaan nie oor dienslewering nie, en dit gaan nie oor mense te dien nie, dan gaan hulle nie die regte besluite maak nie, en hierdie wat ons nou ervaar gaan aanhou en aanhou en aanhou. Dis hoekom ons altyd praat, en dis hoekom ons altyd sê, jy weet, die kanker moet eers uitgesny word. Daai kanker moet eers uitgesny word voor ons is nou besig om pleisters te plak op oop wonde. En dit gaan nie help nie. Jy weet, want elke keer as jy 'n pleistertjie plak, gaan daar nog een oop.
Absoluut.
Ons moet die kanker uitsny, ons moet die oorsprong, dat ons moet gaan kyk, dit is wat ons moet regstel, nommer 1, en dit begin met leierskap. Absoluut 100% begin dit met leierskap.
Ek sien Kurt sê vir ons baie good evening, Prof, Pres, Chris en Marlon, and I say I agree 100% with what Pres is saying, and South Africa don't realize how important it is to be part of a change, and what better way when voting for the right party. And that brings me, Jacques, I want to bring a panel in here, and maybe just get their opinion as well on if they could put a two-point plan together, how theirs would look. And Marlon, since you're a newbie here, I want to put you first on.
Good evening, Prof. Goeienaand, Jacques, goeienaand, Prof, goeienaand, Chris.
Awesome.
Good evening. Okay, I'm going to put it to you this way. And I've been looking at a certain way of eradicating poverty. Because poverty is what is causing people to go this route. We need to eradicate that. And my thing is, a lot of people says, yeah, but municipalities can't do this. We're going into a local government election in 2027. But my thing is, why do you want to tar road? Hoekom moet ons 'n pad teer? Hoekom kan ons nie paving sit nie? As ons pave, dit is werkskepping. Daar is mense wat die pywers maak. It's all about the roll-on effect, the knock-on effect on what things is doing within the city of Cape Town. Look, the city of Cape Town is big, and a lot of things has influenced me in saying what I am saying. I look at ancestral history, and what has happened and what is going to happen. Structural engineering perspective, this is going to happen. So we need to empower people. Let's start empowering the people to get forward. Let's give them the job, let them do it, and make them build their town. A lot of people is going to hate me for saying this. Baie mense gaan my haat. Maar ek kyk na areas soos Oranje. I look at areas like that where people have come together, united, and built. Hulle het by mekaar gekom, saamgekom en gebou. So, kom saam en ons bou hierdie land terug na wat hy gewees het. Dit is my insette in wat ek dink.
Dankie Marlon, appreciate it. Chris.
Prof, Jacques hit it on the head, Marlon has hit it on the head. What we have to take into account, and I think a lot of people who, as Jacques illustrated earlier on, they sit behind their keyboards and they complain, but they don't get involved. And it becomes a problem when everybody wants everything and they expect that government should be paying for this. They don't want to accept that government doesn't have money. They have our money. And they have thrown it away, taken it, wherever the money is gone, it's gone. We all have an invested interest in this country. And yes, I agree with Jacques on that perspective of just two things. Get service delivery done and get crime under control. People will be safer. People will then take pride in this country. And once they are safe, you can get people and stakeholders involved in actually building their own countries and building their own towns and taking vested interest in their own neighborhood. But people are so short of money now because the money is missing, that there isn't anything to go around. We have reached junk status. People are backing to put food on the table. And service delivery, nobody has an interest in doing that because the funds are all gone. We had a problem here in PE where our mayor said that every single light will be up and running by Thursday last week. Because they needed to spend the budget, and the DA jumped up and down. And, some of the lights got fixed. Thousands did not get fixed, and the budget is gone. So that's what happened. People act too late, and they don't want to get stakeholders involved, and we end up with nothing. So I would tackle crime firstly, at least secondly, and I would tackle first service delivery first. Those are the only two things.
Thank you very much, Chris. Guys, I think a lot of our listeners can't wait for us to get to our main topic this afternoon or this evening. And now we're going to go to the Mingles part of the program. And I love this word. Jacques started with it when we started this program on Joy Radio. En toe hy begin het met die mengels, hy sê ons gaan 'n bietjie mengels praat vanaand. En dit is waar ons Afrikaans en die Engels die mekaar gooi. So ons kan dit eintlik die stryd talk, mengels stryd talk oor UIM begin noem ook. The CRL Commission. Nou ja, for those listeners who don't know what CRL stands for, This is for Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities Commission. Now, Jacques, from a legal point of view, could you maybe just tell us, this is a commission that after 2020, after the democratic system in which this country started, that this were instituted and started. What are these commissions actually? Because this is a different commission as what we see now as ad hoc commission with Parliament is, and the Makandla Commission and those type of commissions.
Yeah, Prof, it's a Chapter 9 institution, so it's like the Public Protector, obviously, and the Auditor General. So these are all constitutional bodies that were established to exercise a form of, I won't say control, but checks and balances over government and certain governmental institutions and legal concepts or whatever you want to call it in South Africa. So this commission is also a Chapter 9 institution, and this commission was established to ensure and secure religious freedoms for everyone, for all the people in South Africa, in democratic South Africa. That's the purpose, or that was the purpose of this commission in the first place. But it seems as if it's starting to change shape, obviously. I mean, this week, recently, there was a march yesterday to the union buildings where, people protested against this. But I see that this commission is now being used for everything but what it was intended for, if I can put it this way. Because, like I said, its main purpose was to secure religious freedoms in this country. But now they want to start exercising governmental control over religion in South Africa and people that not practice religion, but your I don't know, Prof. Help me out with the word here.
Okay. Yeah, they want to start to regulate it. That's what they want to do.
They want to regulate it, exactly. So once again, this is now a form of abuse of state power. And there's a lot of people that are of the opinion that we have, this is a government, or the ruling party has communistic tendencies. That would be a very interesting topic to discuss one evening. But I don't know what else to call it. This is the last thing that should fall under governmental control or state control. There's supposed to be a clear separation between state and church. And although, like I said, I don't know if this was the intention to begin with, to establish this commission to secure these religious freedoms as they proclaim to do, or as it was proposed, but this is not the situation. This is not the case. The way they are conducting themselves now is in direct contradiction to that purpose, or that the reason for this commission coming into being in the first place. So it's still early days. They have made a number of proposals. They have proposed a couple of things. This doesn't look good for us as religious people and people that want to be free from state control and state persecution, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, we haven't gotten to that stage yet. But this is now, we say in Afrikaans, nou krapel en nou eers in ons laai.
Yeah.
Because what's next? What's next? It
That's
was
the question.
Education, and then it was health, and now it's religion as well.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
This is not what true democracy looks like. I think people must actually go and make the effort and Google the term democracy. Then people will realize that we seem to be very far from being a democracy. If you look at true democratic systems in the world, and if you go and read up and look at the concept and the meaning of the word, this is not democracy.
Absolutely not. Now, the best is that in 2020, they already tried the same thing. They already approached Parliament And Parliament actually tells them to forsake, if I can just put it bluntly. This is not going to work, this is not how it's going to work, etc. and that. But now they came back with a bang. Now, I just want to give the listeners a bit of a background, those who are not on par with us. Because this last couple of months, this chairperson of the CRL, that is the abbreviation for this Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Committee, she is Tokyo Mkwanazi Kuluva. Now, she are now actually publicly pushing for the registration and vetting of religious leaders. Some clips, what I just want to play for the listeners so that they can just get a background as out of her own words what she wants to do. And the first clip is as follows.
The church is here now. She has risen a sleeping giant.
The South African Church Defenders say it is resisting the CRL Commission's newly appointed Section 22 committee. While the Commission says the mechanism will help protect congregants and strengthen accountability, faith leaders believe it threatens the autonomy of the church.
Is this a governmental program or is it a Kaluva's commission? This is not a tender. This is spiritual.
The group says the Constitution provides adequate cover.
Parliament rejected it. COGTA rejected it. It says it's unworkable, it's unconstitutional, it's unreasonable, because there are already enough laws to deal with whatever concern that she was raising. Issues of crime that are committed by pastors. There are enough laws.
Leaders also accuse the Commission of targeting Christians unfairly.
Why this commission is selective only to Christians? I don't see this commission with other faith. I don't see with traditional healers. I don't see with Jews, Muslims. Is Christians only the sinners if this were in this country? So that's why you are saying this process is very selective in picking up the committee and in terms of who must be arrested.
The South African Church Defenders says it has a message for the country's leadership.
What we are saying now to the government, they'll have to choose between the church and the commission. And those that are handpicked, even them, they don't want to be labeled as the enemies of the body of Christ. This is nothing else but dividing the church. Is it what the government wants to do?
The group has threatened to take the battle to the streets. For News from Africa on Channel 405, I'm Nasipi Same in Cape Town.
Nou ja, that is one clip. And I'll get to Marlon now. I see he's eager, hy brand, hy wil graag iets sê. Now, then she also came out with a following statement. And she said...
Prof, sorry, you are muted.
Oh, as ek gemute. Sorry man, daar sy. Dis omdat ek met twee verskillende goede hardloop hierso. Ek raak die mekaar. Met die meise, hulle hardloop rond. Her second point, what she actually came out with, is she said that if you say that God speaks to you, or that God has spoken to you, then you need to seek psychiatric intervention. Met ander woorde, jy moet na regte 'n sielkundige gaan sien of jy moet jou laat opneem in 'n sielkundige huis. So kom ons luister na hierdie klip wat sy waar sy sekere dinge kwytraak.
Let's educate our people that no one talks to God. Let's just put it as bluntly as all that. If someone says to you, God was talking to me, tell them to go to the psychiatric ward.
I don't agree with this lady. You know, God is God. There are people out there telling us, God doesn't speak and all these things, but they have the liberty to go to witch doctors and stuff who says they are consulting the ancestors. So I don't know what gods and what things they believe in. We serve the God of the Bible. We serve the God of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, who created the universe. So I do not believe in what you have to say. Yes, the Bible says it's foolishness. The things that we believe in is foolishness to the world. But to those who have repented and believe in God, it's life and life eternal. The ministry of the gospel is life and life eternal. In
Hello,
Jesus'
family.
name, let's listen to what
Rev.
our pastor
Matebula
has to
here,
say.
pastor of Hope Restoration Ministries. So I hear that CRL wants to regulate churches. With all the problems that we have in this country, the problems of borders, the problems of crime, murder, SAPS that is in Madlanga's commission now. We've got schools of circumcision that are not regulated. Children becoming sangomas every day. The drugs that have been taken in our communities. Nobody is regulating all these things. But here you are as CRL. You want to regulate the churches because there's a crime that is committed, by pastors. Treat the criminals like anybody else. If there's a pastor or a religious leader that is committing crime, he must be prosecuted like any other person. But the issue of regulating the church now, that it's a surprise. I am standing to add my weight in this matter and say, hands off the Church of Jesus. Please, as the nation, let's use our energy in the matters that really destroy this nation. Rev. Matebula here, the lover of Jesus and the defender of the Church of Jesus. I thank you. I thank you.
Has defended the ongoing interaction with forebears and the centrality of grace and ancestrally in spiritual life. And she had the following to say in this regard.
There are over 10 members in the ad hoc committee representing over 45 million Christians in South Africa. According to the CLL Rights Commission, these members will crisscross the country to seek guidance from Christians for the regulation of the religious sector.
We are in trouble as Christians in this country. We all know that the few that are doing outrageous things cannot be managed or controlled using existing laws, because existing laws wait for you to commit a serious crime.
The committee will engage with various religious leaders as well as congregations whose rights have been abused. At the launch, Sihle Sibisi is one of the survivors who was called to speak out.
I stand here today saying I do not trust any man that will come to me and say, God says about you. Because the man I trusted that said, God says about you, ended up saying, take off your panties.
In the past, South Africa was horrified after seeing pictures of people eating grass or petrol and others being doomed, all in the name of religion. The committee has pledged to fight and protect congregants.
However, where human rights of people, in particular the vulnerable, women and children, where law is broken, fraud is committed, and abuse takes place, this is a major concern and completely unacceptable.
We, members of the committee, the St. Agnes Zion Christian Church, hereby express our unequivocal support for the initiative to establish a consultative committee for the development of a coherent and effective regulatory framework.
We hope that this process will bury any confusion, any doubt that we really meant to look at how we can protect our members and then create a safe space for members who come to our churches.
The CRL Commission says it is expecting the Section 22 ad hoc committee to come up with a draft of the proposed self-regulation mechanism and the code of conduct in about a year. Then after consultation, the final document will be submitted to Parliament.
Church members are urged to participate in the meetings the committee will hold. For Newsroom Africa on Channel 405, I am Ngubele Madlala in Johannesburg.
Right, so that is also part of their plan. That is what they want to do, and they want this pushed through before the end of 2026. Now, Marlon, you've been waiting patiently there while we went through this, so please.
Yes, Prof. Thank you. And, you know, I've been thinking about this for a long time. And working within municipalities, being within the political sphere for quite a while, I've got one thing to say. They let God out. They excluded our Lord Jesus Christ out of the spectrum of governance. In saying that is, they do not open with a prayer anymore. Opening with a prayer is asking a blessing and calmness. And that is why Parliament is what it is. I'll say it straight. Closing with a prayer is asking a blessing upon what was decided. And that is what needs to be brought back to this country. It needs to be brought back to this Republic of South Africa. I've learned, and I'm going to mention a name now. I've learned from a guy by the name of Grant Wenzel. I was my bestuurder, he was my manager. And he used to tell us, kick your shoes as deep in underneath your bed as what you can. And in the morning, you need to go down on your knees and go and look for them. That is my 5 cents. But this country, we need to get back to the basics. Let's get back to that basics and let's build this country from there.
Absolutely. Nou, listeners, net gou hierdie enetjie, ek sien Barry's vra hierso, die vrou is op een of ander bossie, weet nie wat se bossie nie. Dan sê sy, ja, sy rook seker iemand se kouser, die Ramakokka se kouser. Maar dit kan seker so wees, Barry. Die groot ding is dat hulle wil hierdie inbring. En my probleem is, dit is nie net, you know, everybody think it is just about Christianity. It's not just about Christianity. And I want to bring Chris in now. And if your viewers can, those of you who are regular listeners to the Straight Talk on UFM, will know that Chris is a Muslim. He's from the Muslim faith. And I want to get Chris' view on this as well, because we have spoken about it. Because it starts somewhere, and then it starts to escalate right through to all the others as well. Chris?
Thank you, Prof. Look, it's common sense that a family that prays together stays together.
Mm-hmm.
That's just common sense. It's the way it is. Whether you raise your hands up into the air or you put your head on the ground and praise your Creator, you cannot succumb to a person's abuse by negating your religious duties. That goes across the board from any faith. You did right by saying they're starting with Christianity. Now they'll move on to Islam. They might move on to Judaism and anybody else that values a higher power. The problem here is, my main concern here, in 2018, the government turned us down. Now, it makes you lose even more faith in the government because there's no oversight. This CRL committee is beginning to strike me as a rogue committee that is just going about doing what they want to do. The representation on this committee doesn't represent all the denominations at all. I don't see how they can be speaking for all of Christianity. I've had conversations with doctors of theology here in Port Elizabeth. Someone I grew up with. I have a lot of respect for Bruce Willard. He also tackled this a couple of years ago, and I've actually invited him to actually sit down with me one day and explain what is going to happen going forward if we do not stand up against this. And Marlon, you're 100% right. Religious studies should be put into schools, be it Islamic studies, be it Christianic studies. You cannot negate them from school. It has to be there. It is the core and the foundation of every family. And furthermore, you are right as well, Prof, by saying this is government's way of distracting us from what is really going on. You tackle a person's faith and they get blinded by this. And they don't see what other corruption is happening. So yes, I from a personal perspective, stand behind the fact that, in my opinion, the CRL is abusing their power as an institution.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. You know, the thing is, as you said, 2018, they introduced, 2020 rejected by government, but they still carried on. And, you know, so now they start again to push for the mechanism to vet, to license, and to regulate religious organizations and leaders. This means they are threatening the freedom of religion, including the spiritual autonomy of faith communities. And this violates the Constitution. And this is where I want to bring Jacques back in. Because the South African Constitution guarantees every person the following. First of all, freedom of conscience, religion, thoughts, belief, and opinions. And if I'm correct, that is section 15. Then freedom of association, section 18. And freedom of religion communities to govern themselves, section 31. Now, I see Marlon quickly want to jump in there. And after that, Jacques, if you don't mind, from your legal expertise, just to give us a bit of oversight on these sections 15, 18, and 31, on our freedoms, what they want to take away from us. Marlon?
Yes, Prof. You know, I've looked at various aspects, and I've been listening and looking at various parts of this legislation now. And you know what irks me is that 7, 8-year-olds at school are on drugs. But when they are asked to pray at a school, they will bow their heads. What does that tell you? Bowing your head at that specific time, after that, that child goes mad again. My problem with this is we need to start instilling this at primary school level. Bring this back. I don't want to go on to the Bible because that is a topic which we need to leave for another day. But this is a topic which religion is a big part of our children's education. I agree with Chris. And I've grown up with a lot of Muslim friends, family. And we need to love each other like brothers and sisters. Therefore, we cannot continue the fight. The fight is happening currently. Outside of Israel, it's happening inside South Africa. This is just my point of view. I see it daily. I see it within communities. I work throughout the Western Cape, city of Cape Town. I see it daily. So, Prof, that is just, it's my 2 cents, and we need to start eradicating that, where we live together in harmony, because our lives are as important as everyone else's lives outside of South Africa. Thanks, Prof.
Thanks, Marlon. Jacques, vir ons 'n bietjie gesels oor hierdie ja, oor ons vryheid en die konstitusie asseblief, maar altyd veral vir die luisteraars wat dit nie mooi verstaan nie.
Yeah, Prof, one thing that I also want to mention is this this whole business now that's happening now with our this, I call it an attack on our freedom of religion. We must not make the mistake of not thinking or not considering that the state is attempting to regulate religion in South Africa, you know, and this is arising from motives of political stability, or for that matter, controlling religious groups that are perceived as threats in this country. So, you know, this is we know by now that the ruling party in this country cares very little for the people of South Africa. So, you know, any decision that they make should be scrutinized, you know, to the utmost, because, you know, we have become accustomed to a lot of these decisions that are being made that are definitely not in the best interest of the people. And I cannot, for the life of me, imagine or think rationally how what they are attempting now is going to benefit anyone, any person, or any religious person in South Africa. You know, religion is one of the few things, one of the few fundamental things or foundations in this country that are keeping people together, that are, you know, ensuring that this country doesn't completely collapse and descend into absolute chaos. Why would they come and touch it? Why would they come and disturb something that should be left undisturbed? So this, to me, is a clear indication that, you know, that there's a political motive behind this. But I don't think it doesn't take rocket science to realize that. You know, and speaking about the Constitution, it's not only our freedom of religion that's under attack in South Africa. If you go and look at it, if you just go and look at a few of our constitutional human rights, let's go and look at the Constitution and let's just look at a few of these constitutional rights that are contained in the Bill of Rights of the Constitution of South Africa. And then, you know, and then we can discuss them, and we can all discuss them. We can discuss them individually. But the right to equality, human dignity, and rule of law, that is a constitutional right. I mean, I can think of a number of instances and examples where this right is being violated. We spoke about, you know, the oath that you take as a member of parliament.
Mm-hmm.
You know, entails that you commit to ensuring or promoting these rights, the right to equality, human dignity, and the rule of law. But you've still got a guy like Julius Malema that serves as a member of parliament that sings hateful songs that speak about violence, that instigates, or that is considered to be hate speech. Let's call a spade a spade. It's hate speech. Don't care what any court says. It's hate speech.
True.
Plain and simple. That is a direct violation of our right, the people of South Africa's right to equality, human dignity, and rule of law. The right to security and protection from violence. We've got a country with one of the worst crime rates in the world. How much money is being spent on improving SAPS or upgrading SAPS or on crime prevention in South Africa? We've got. I did a study the other day. There was an analysis that I did. I pulled some stats off the internet of the amount of police stations that don't have adequate facilities to operate properly. I mean, if you look at the number of police vehicles in South Africa compared to the amount of police officers in South Africa, that ratio is completely off. If you look at crime prevention, if you look at investigative techniques and the equipment and the tools that are being used all over the world to solve crimes in South Africa, we are so far behind in South Africa when it comes to these things. And these things require funding and money. But funds and money is being misappropriated in this country. It's being stolen. It's unaccounted for. Instead of now going through all this trouble, which is probably going to cost us another couple of billions or millions or whatever, why don't you take that money and you go and spend it on something worthwhile? Go and spend it on crime prevention. Try to address this issue in South Africa. That is probably the biggest issue and the biggest concern in South Africa at the moment, and that is crime. I think if we could choose one thing to solve in this country, if we were given the funds and we had the funds to spend, and we had to start somewhere, I think that's where we would start. That's the first thing we would try and fix in South Africa, because we are all living in fear. The criminals are running this country and ruling this country. We've got commission after commission that's being established to investigate corruption in the police and in our judiciary or judicial system. That's what the money should be spent on. That is what we need to fix. That's what we need to focus on. I agree with what that one gentleman said when you played that clip. He said, why do you leave our religious freedoms alone? Leave these things alone. You've got other priorities that you need to concern yourself with.
True.
Another human right to education and sanitation. I mean, that's a joke. That's a joke. This is something that government should provide. Government should provide adequate education, and I mean, obviously sanitation falls under service delivery. We can discuss those two topics alone. I mean, we can do a whole discussion on that alone. That is a human right that we have as South Africans. That's also being violated. The Constitution, our Constitution speaks about being non-racist or non-racial, non-sexist, non-discriminatory. That's a joke. That is a joke. We've got so many discriminatory laws in South Africa at the moment. I think the last count, somebody did a study on this and they said that there were 144 discriminatory laws in South Africa that favor one race over another. Section 9 of the Constitution is called the Equality Clause, which says everyone is equal before the law and has the right to equal protection and benefit of the law. Prof, do you think that's the case in South Africa?
No.
The state may not unfairly discriminate directly or indirectly on grounds including race, gender, sex, pregnancy, marital status, ethnic or social origin, color. The list goes on and on. What do you call BEE then?
Discrimination.
They have cleverly, obviously, drafted small. There's fine print. If you go and read the Constitution, there's always fine print, and people should actually go and look at the fine print.
True.
There's so many contradictions in our laws, and even in our Constitution. That is why the UIN, we have always said in the last 4 years, one of the things that we have always said that we would do if we were ever given the opportunity to govern, is we would review this Constitution and we would amend it. This Constitution was written 30 years ago. Things have changed. Circumstances have changed. I understand and realize that certain clauses were put in the Constitution to address certain irregularities and imbalances 30 years ago. But we have moved on from that. It's time that we review the Constitution, and it's time that we make the necessary amendments to the Constitution, because you know what, at the moment there's loopholes, and these loopholes are being exploited by people and entities that are exploiting these loopholes for personal gain and for their own agendas.
Absolutely.
And it's time that we have a look at this Constitution again and not rewrite it, but amend it or revise it so that everybody equally benefits from the regulations and all these provisions that are contained in the Constitution. What I
want to suggest, Jacques, that we maybe on one Thursday evening spend the program just around the Constitution and let the listeners when send in their questions and that maybe beforehand, what they questions that they got regarding the Constitution, or maybe suggestions how they would love to see it changed, and then maybe we can do a topic on that. I see here we've got some questions from the studio that came via the main studio in Germiston through that WhatsApp number there. One listener said we should educate the parents first. They allow this. And other one says religion doesn't belong in politics, but religious principles should be in politics. And yeah, that definitely should be there. I agree completely with that. And another one says absent parents needs to be changed. Most male workers come from their homeland and spend months away from home, leaving the kids to fend for themselves with a mother. Kids need their father's back. That means work close to their homelands or where they stay. Our darker brothers are migrant workers in their own country. So it's a labor issue, create opportunities for growth, instill pride in our country back. Schooling must change, but with a parents' input. Now, yeah, so, yeah, you know, all of these are complete valid points. And then we've got the other one, Jacques, and this comes from Leon. He says the following. I said, when the UAM addresses the country and when the UAM speaks about our people, who specifically will be included in this group? Now, I think if I can just give my answer on this one, this will include each and every citizen of this country. Jacques?
Yeah, Prof, I totally 100% agree. Anything that we do in this country that's good, or any good that we will do in this country will benefit everyone. And anything bad that happens in this country, or any bad decision that gets taken, affects everybody. We all pay the same price for milk and bread. We drive on the same roads. We all, get our water from the same sources. Doesn't matter who you vote for, who you support, what race or religion or color you are. We all benefit when things work in this country, and we all suffer when they don't. So support people that have your best interest at heart, because at the end of the day, whatever we do for our constituency or for our constituents or for our members or whatever, because we are a political party, we've got a constituency, and obviously we are who we are. But the decisions that we take and the plans that we have for South Africa is going to benefit everybody. Whether you hate us or whether you love us, you're all going to benefit from it. And at the same time, everybody in South Africa, whether you vote for the ANC or the DA or the UIM or whatever, when bad decisions get taken, we all suffer. Doesn't matter who you vote for. So people need to start educating themselves. They need to start doing their due diligence. We have a responsibility, as I said previously, to reach out to those people that have been left in the dark and make sure that they also see the light, so that they can also start making decisions in their best interest, because they are being duped, they are being manipulated, they are being lied to, and they are selling their souls for a cap and a t-shirt every 5 years. And that is where all these votes, every 5 years, we all scratch our heads and wonder where the hell did X, Y, and Z get all these millions of votes? Where did these millions of votes come from? That's exactly where those votes come from. It comes from those people who, like I said, majority of them have been left in the dark, and they have been kept in the conditions that they've been living under for the last 30 years. And I'm sure that there's always been a plan behind it. And that plan has been working for the last 30 years. So people out there are a lot of rich people in South Africa. We've got a whole bunch of billionaires in South Africa that don't know what to do with their money. And they need to, if they want to do something positive or make a positive contribution in this country, then start funding entities and organizations that are willing to do the hard work, that are willing to go through these lengths, those people, and get into contact with those people on the ground. Because all we need at the end of the day, we want to change this country, and we want to get remove its it's rotten leadership and replace it with elections to turn things around. And complex problems, but simple solutions. Prof, there's simple solutions to these complex problems. And sometimes, unfortunately, it takes a bit of money.
Absolutely.
But a project like that, if you could get a project like that off the ground and fund it and start reaching out to these people and spreading the gospel and spreading the word, I'm telling you now, you will see a change. You will see a different outcome in the next election. But if we are going to keep on looking after our own and just you know, and if we're not going to get out of our comfort zones and move into these areas where these people stay and where, I mean, there's 20 million people that still don't vote. If we're not going to start reaching out to those people and make the effort to reach them, which will require, obviously, funds and finances, because, I mean, we're talking big logistics here. And people, this is going to be a full-time commitment. But it can be done, and the funds are available, and those people that have the funds that can make a huge difference, they are out there. They are out there. It's just, like I said, I mean, and then the money that we're talking about is chump change to a lot of these people, but it could change this whole country. One just wants to, one just wonders whether or not whether or not they have such intentions or not. But anyways, they can do with their money whatever they want to do with the money. But I'm just saying that there is a solution, there is a plan. But yeah, it's difficult. You know, it's difficult to execute such plans sometimes because you lack resources and you lack a number of things. But I'm hoping and I'm confident that it will change. I think things have already started changing in South Africa. This year has been a very peculiar year. It's been a very strange year. A lot of positive things have happened. I think we are better off than we were last year as far as the future is concerned. Yes, still a lot of stuff that's happening that's very concerning, but there's also good things happening. And one of the best things that I think that happened this year obviously was the international community that started opening their eyes.
Absolutely, yeah.
People that are starting to stand up, and you've got people that are, taking the fight or picking up the flag and running with it and fighting the good fight. And we need to support these people, or we need to be those people. One of the two. But yeah, as long as we carry on doing what we're doing at the moment, and as long as people are going to keep on standing up, I think the future might be brighter than we all think it is at the moment. I think the future is bright for South Africa.
Baie dankie Jacques vir daardie insigte. I see our time is running out very quickly. A couple of minutes for each guy, for Marlon and for Chris. En dan wil ek afsluit en ek wil net dat Jacques met vinnig met ons gesels as hy kan oor die 200 raadslede wat Action SA hierdie week gefire het. Ja, daar is geen beter woord daarvoor nie. Hulle is gefire.
Ja,
hulle is gefire.
Ja, dit was nie 200 die prof, dit was 'n hele handvol.
Ja.
Maar dit was nou nie so baie nie, maar dit was 'n hele handjie vol geweest. Kyk, ek moet sê, ek sien daarso dat hulle die redes hoekom hulle gefire is hulle het nie voldoen aan standaarde nie. In Engels is daar KPIs. Hulle het nie they didn't meet their KPIs or those requirements. Hulle praat daarso van, ek dink een van die hoofredes het te doen gehad met recruitment.
Nie genoeg lede gewerf nie.
Ja, lede werf. Ja, en hulle praat daarvan dat daar's mense wat moeite doen en daar's mense wat al takke op die been gebring het en besig is om baie te doen in hulle gemeenskappe en hulle het net gevoel dat dis die mense wat die geleentheid gegee moet word om te dien as raadslede. Ek moet vir jou sê, ek is geneig om saam te stem met hulle. Ek dink nie hier in die UIM is die vereistes van so 'n aard dat ons het sommer mense links en regs gaan aan die pad steek hier. Ek dink hulle is nogal, hoe sê hulle, they're running a tight ship daar by die Action SA, like it's.
Ja.
Maar ek dink nog steeds, as jy gekies word as 'n raadslid, het jy 'n verantwoordelikheid teenoor jou gemeenskap en en die mense wat jou verkies het. En as jy nie jou werk doen nie, dan sal niks fout daarmee om iemand anders 'n geleentheid te gee wat das ons moet hoë standaarde stel, soos ek sê. Ek dink NSA het nou nog 'n bietjie, hoe sê dat hy drop the hammer. Maar dis ook nie noodwendig 'n slegte ding. Ons moet hoë standaarde stel in hierdie land. En ons moet the best man for the job. Jy weet, ons mense word op by die te gekies en mense wat nie hulle werk doen nie of mense wat daar moet geleentheid gegee word vir ander mense wat meer competent is, as ek dit so kan stel. Maar ja, ek het lekker gelag toe ek het gesien het, dit was interessant. Ek het nou nogal ek het al vir Herman Mashaba ontmoet en vir Michael Beaumont en daai ouens, so ek kon hulle picture hier in my brein hoe hulle al afgedank het.
Ja, ek sien nou, ek het nou 'n boodskap hier gekry. Hulle sê elkeen moes 200 nuwe lede inkry. Dis waar ek op die 200 gekom het. Ja, die teiken was hoog, hy KPI's. Maar dan
het so ek wil maar vir ons UI mense ook sê. Julle teikens is baie laer, julle teikens is baie kleiner as daai. Want laat hierdie vir julle les wees, nie eksport, ek maak dit.
Ek dink jy gaan sê dit dis baie hoor. Maar maar ek sien ons het 'n nuwe politieke party wat in die 2026 verkiesing gaan deelneem, wat nou saamgesmelt het vir daai ene Bosha en Mzansi en Good en dis meer.
Ja, prof, ja, dis interessant. Ek sal graag 'n bietjie wil gaan kyk, bietjie gaan Google en bietjie gaan krap en kyk en wat se koalisies was hulle al oral saam gewees in jy weet in die verskeie munisipaliteite in Suid-Afrika. Ek verstaan is dat hulle nog nie altyd om dieselfde vuur gesit nie. Ek kan verkeerd wees, maar dit is lyk maar dat hulle bymekaar gekom en besluit hulle gaan hierdie ding saam tackle. Ja, ek weet nie, ek wou amper vir gesê, miskien het hulle identiteitskrisis, maar dit is seker nou nie die geval nie. Ek weet net, ek het gelees, daar is op een van hulle verklarings het hulle gesê dat die mense het gevra hiervoor en hulle het geantwoord.
Okay.
Ek weet nie, maar ek kan nie onthou waar ek nou gelees het dat die mense hiervoor gevra het nie, maar nietemin, weer eens, soos ek sê, as hulle intensies goed is, en as hulle gaan goed doen, dan by all means, want ons almal gaan voordeel trek daai. Maar mense moet maar net hulle huiswerk gaan doen. Gaan kyk maar bietjie, as julle voor julle net sommer net vir iemand stem, en voor julle opgesweep raak, gaan doen maar bietjie huiswerk, gaan kyk 'n bietjie maar na, weet daar waar hulle al in lokale of local government was, kyk 'n bietjie saam met watse partye was hulle in koalisies, kyk wat se kant van die grensdraad het hulle gestaan by sekere besluite wat geneem moes word. Gaan doen maar net 'n bietjie julle huiswerk. Het iemand se track record, dis moeilik, jy kan nie sommer jou track record uitvee nie. En 'n track record sê baie van wie en wat jy is.
Absoluut.
Solank mense hulle huiswerk gaan doen, dan het ek nie, dan is ek nie te veel geplan nie, so ons wens hulle alle sterkte toe en mag hulle goeie intensies hê.
Absoluut.
Mag hulle goeie werk doen en dan sal ons weer 100% ten goeie daarvan wees. Of ten gunste.
Ons bless hulle. Marlin, paar afsluitwoorde van jou af asseblief.
Dankie prof. Yes, I just want to say, firstly, Jacques, Prez, thank you for your words this evening. I have looked at that coalition. I've been watching it closely, and wherever Patricia de Lille goes, I'm going to mention names now. It's a recipe for disaster. Put it that way. Been there, done that, wore that t-shirt. She was with me when I was within the ANC. Ek sê dit reg. I say it straight and I'm not shy. Ek is nie skaam om te sê ek was in die ANC. But I've seen the light. Ons het die lig gesien dat daar 'n korrupte land is daar buite. Prof, Ek sê vir u dankie, want ons moet keer godsdienst terug in hierdie land. Hierdie Republiek van Suid-Afrika moet keer ons weer godsdienst. Ek het nog nie weer in 'n lang tyd 'n gebed gesien in 'n parlementsopening nie. En dit is wat moet terugkom. En ek bid dat dit moet terugkom. Elke dag gaan ek op my knieë. Ek skop my skoene diep onder my kooi elke aand. Onder my bed skop ek daai skoene en ek bid dat dit gebeur. I pray for this country and I pray that this country will heal. For the politicians out there, they've got one thing coming. They've got the United Independent Movement coming. They've got us coming. It's not just me. It's not just Prof. Aubrey. It's not just Jacques Tallier. It's not just Chris. We are a bunch of people that are coming. And we're coming with a vengeance. We're coming to take this country back and bring it back. To make it a place of God again. Prof, ek sê vir jou baie dankie vir die geleentheid. En aan al ons luisteraars, baie dankie.
Baie dankie, Marlon. Chris, you were quite quiet this evening, but the last couple of words in a minute or so, please.
I would just like to add to the two things that Jock said, service delivery and crime. I would like to have a hell of a lot of T-shirts printed and deal it out to the government. And on the T-shirt it would say, the ability to speak does not make me intelligent. It's like watching a comedy of errors. You wake up on a Monday morning and you wonder, how are they going to fluff this week? Surprise me. Our stand-in president at the moment stopped the rapture 2 weeks ago. Wow. I'm telling you, she gets the first T-shirt. Yeah, it's, you really don't know what's going to come in. You know, when you open the thing and you say, I want to see Parliament, or do I want to see Moomish? I see Moomish. That's my closing statement.
Thank you very much, Chris. Nou ja, Jacques, enige laaste woorde van jou kant af voor ek afsluit vir ons?
Prof, ja, ek wil ook net dankie sê vir jou en vir Marlon en vir Chris. Jy weet, Neil was ook in die ANC. Ons het almal agtergrond. Ons almal was al op 'n plek gewees en ons het gedink, ons het goed gedoen wat ons op daai stadium gedink het was die regte ding om te doen. Maar een ding wat ek vir jou kan sê is, ek weet dat die mense wat heiliglik saam met ons is in hierdie party, ek weet hulle harte is reg. Ek ken vir Marlon, ek ken vir Chris, ek ken vir jou Prof, ek het jou nog nie in persoon ontmoet nie, maar ek het nou vir Marlon en vir Chris ontmoet. En ek sal, daar's niemand anders aan wie ek hierdie sal wil aanpak as hierdie mense, en hierdie kaliber mense. En ons het baie van hulle in die UI. En dis mense wat omgee vir hulle gemeenskappe, dis mense wat omgee vir hulle families, dis mense met inbors, dis mense met hart en siel, soos ek al gesê het. En dis die tipe mense wat ek is, as ek 'n leier moet kies, en as ek wil iemand hê wat iemand om na op te kyk, en iemand wat besluite moet maak oor my lewe, is dit die kaliber mens wat ek sal kies. En ek is bevoorreg om sulke kollegas te kan hê in die UIM, en daar's baie ander nog daar buite wat die mense nog gaan ontmoet oor die volgende paar weke. So ek sien baie uit na hierdie reis, en ek is baie daar gaan ek weer met my mengels, confident in Suid-Afrika se toekoms, en ek sien uit om saam met julle almal te werk, en ja, that's it. Baie
dankie Jacques, Marlon, Chris. Baie dankie luisteraars dat julle hier vanaand ingeskakel het. Onthou volgende week selfde tyd, selfde plek, ons klaar. Ons het nou nie by al die boodskapies uitgekom nie, en ek wil net hierdie enetjie sê, jene, dan bedank ek dadelik. Nee, jy hoef nie te bedank nie, hoor. Ons gaan nie dit op jou toepas nie. Jy hoef nie 200 meer mense in te kry nie. Kom ons sluit af met gebed, en be blessed till next week. Father, we thank you for your guidance with the discussions on the program this evening.
Lord, be with each and everyone throughout the weekend and week until we gather again. Bless every listener in Jesus' name. Amen.